Once I was able to get this weight off of my shoulders that I have to be the best person in this movie, and that honestly I should utilize all of these other amazing actors and help them bring me up as and highlight my strengths as I'm able to, make the George Lopez's and the Elpidia Carrillos and the other actors in this movie as they are receiving my energy and taking who I am as an actor and kind of enhancing their performances, I should be doing the same thing.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Xolo Maridueña is an actor. He plays Miguel on Cobra Kai, which just started airing its 5th season on Netflix. We're catching him at an interesting moment. He just got the chance to portray a role he only dreamed of playing, Blue Beetle, in the DC superhero movie. He's only 21, but as you'll hear, he's wise beyond his years. I sat down with him in Midtown Manhattan to talk about the work.
Is there something that developed over the first 4 seasons of Cobra Kai, whether willing or not, like a process that started to develop for you that you hauled into this season and then it just worked for you because you had 4 seasons of doing the same character? Mm-hmm. And even if you weren't necessarily like consciously developing a process, that one actually started to happen, making things easier for you in this 5th season.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of security that comes with playing the same character over 5 years. I think there's a sense of ease that, especially being that when I started the show, I mean, I'm 21 now, but when I started the show, I was 16. The character was 16. He was going through high school. I was in high school. It felt easy to tap into what it meant to be an angsty teenager who was kind of going, whether it was through relationships or through bullying or through, having this sense of a father figure. There were a lot of parallels within my own life that it felt tangible. It felt like I was able to, bring Xolo to the character, but also that inherently Miguel he's a really positive kid. He's a really genuine young man, and I think that was easy to kind of to tap into. As we headed into the 5th season, I think we were exploring something a little bit different that we hadn't seen before. There was this sense of a puzzle piece missing in Miguel's life, and his father, I think, was that puzzle piece. In the first 4 seasons, we find that my character is able to have this fatherly figure through Johnny Lawrence. And that's always been one of my favorite parts of the role. As someone myself who has, a biological father and a stepfather, stepfather doesn't even sound like the right word, but as someone who understands what it means to have a figure in your life that isn't necessarily blood related, but that you can have those feelings for, that was always something that I enjoyed, but I also understood the desire, the want to know, the curiosity of being like, but I do, even if he's a piece of shit, even if he's terrible, or even if my mom has told me all of these things that, my dad has done and this is why he's not in my life, there's still that inherently this sense of curiosity, and there's still that desire to want to know, and I appreciate kind of the angle that they took at it. And I think our writers do a stand-up job. I think when it comes to the process, up until maybe I'd say the 2nd or 3rd season of Cobra Kai, everything before that, even before Cobra Kai, Parenthood, some of these other projects I did in between, a lot of the reactions or a lot of the choices I was making as an actor felt very straightforward, because as a kid, I think it's changing a little bit now. You see there are some phenomenal actors who are under the age of 15 and really are able to tap into something immense. I think for me, because I I don't know if I knew what it meant to be an actor up until even, these past few years. A lot of the decisions that I were making were very straightforward, very obvious, especially coming from a show. I was building my toolkit on parenthood, where it's apparent that the show is sad. Every episode, someone's crying about something, it's a very heavy show. And I think because of that, you could read the page and it was straightforward. Yeah. All right, I'm crying. It felt very surface level.
It
felt very surface level for me as a character who was a kid coming in to say his lines, going back to school. I can definitely tell you that for the older, more seasoned actors on the show, it was not like that. They were totally professionals and really were able to help guide me, I think, because this was my first role. This was the first thing I had ever done. Yeah. I had come from a world of commercials and modeling where all that you had to do was smile and wear the summer 22 Sears look or whatever. Yeah. And more recently, I've really, and especially now with Blue Beetle, I've had to find out what it means to be a character. Every character can't feel the same. There's definitely actors who are really great at finding a certain type of character and playing that out. But for what I'd like to do, for the process that I'd like to create, I have to find out some sense of distinguishability with these characters. And I think that's been really fun. It's been daunting as well. I can't lie and say, oh my gosh, this thing's a walk in the park, especially when you're, experimenting with, character building on a $100+ million movie where I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want to explore, but also there's a sense of, I don't want to say pressure, because honestly, I feel like everyone around me was so welcoming and made me feel so comfortable that there never was really a sense of pressure.
Maybe duty is a better word.
Yes,
duty.
A sense of duty and that's the perfect word for it. And now I'm really starting to find out, and I'm so excited to hopefully get to come back to a 6th season of Cobra Kai to display this sense of, it was almost like eureka. I'd been playing this character for 5 years, and it was comfortable to sit back and say, I know Miguel. I know this guy inside and out. I've grown up with this, but when you are able to take a step back and say, all right, I've been playing this character for 5 years, but in the show, maybe 2 years has gone by. But I'm 21 now. I started this character when I was 16. Now he's 17. I've learned so much. I'd love to get to come back to Cobra Kai and really display, whether it's, display a new ability or what have you, but hopefully bring something new to the character that we haven't seen before.
Yeah. So this is an interesting thing, because you clearly have a true natural ability as an actor. Like it's not just that you still have instincts. It's true acting sensibility is there. So I would imagine that when you are saying, okay, I've been playing this character, but it's very close to me, and now I want to be able to, and I'm going to have to, because now I have this role that's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I have to move acting muscles that I wasn't using before, right? But there also must have been a little thing where it's like, is this going to mess with my natural ability? Is working this muscle going to actually interfere with this instinct that I was using for 5 years?
I think there, at the beginning, prior to filming this new project, there was this sense of, what am I looking to do here? I had the really blessed opportunity, or whatever you call it, serendipitous. I didn't audition for Blue Beetle, and having these conversations with the director, he saw something in me that even once having had the role, I didn't see in myself, because there's this sense of, how can you be so sure about this when I don't even know if I believe this. I've always wanted to be Blue Beetle,
Right.
as long as I can remember. My mom is a huge comic book fan, this and that, but
And I think you just need to say why, because I think this is important. It's not just like, this is a very specific character that you looked up to.
yeah, a very specific character that I looked up to that looks like myself, that
Right.
that has similar experiences to my own. And I think when I was starting to explore what it meant to be a new character, I had this idea at the beginning that, the director and the producers, they've seen Cobra Kai, and that's how I got the role. So clearly they must want something similar to Miguel. How could they have entrusted me with this new project if they didn't kind of want it to be
Right.
like this past project? And I remember doing the chemistry reads, and one of our producers came up to me at the end and he was like, "Look, we're having a really great time with these chemistry reads. This isn't Miguel. This isn't like this, let's try to figure something else out." And this is when I started going to my first, coaching lessons ever. I really wanted to, they didn't stress, but they made clear that this is an opportunity to bring something new to the table.
Yeah.
That we've seen and we've grown to love characters like Miguel, characters
Yeah.
like Victor on Parenthood or what have you. But this can be a really great opportunity to display something else.
Yeah.
Whether that is displaying an acting ability or just displaying something different.
Yeah.
And that was really, really fun. I had so much fun working with the coach, Nancy Banks. She was. I have to give her a shout out because I can't imagine that this would have been nearly as a great feeling experience as it would have been without her. But this thing that you're talking about, this feeling of maybe, am I losing what got me this far by being technically
Right.
correct, was not really there, because I was learning so much about the instincts and about the intentions that I was bringing to all of my roles before.
Yes.
As I was practicing with this new character, I was learning why I was doing certain things. There was a feeling of, oh my, it was like a click in my head, like, I understand, because a lot of times you read the line and you say, okay, I know how I'm supposed to say this, but now I realize it's not a sound. You're not looking for how the line should sound.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I could be rehearsing by myself 100,000 times, this is how I'm gonna say it, and then I get there on the day and the person sitting across from me doesn't say it how I'm expecting them to say it, and then I look like a fool because I'm a robot who only knows how to do something the way that I've planned to do it.
Yes.
But whether or not it's true, and I think acting is super subjective. It's very much, it changes from person to person. But the way that I kind of see it now, at least, because I truthfully didn't see it this way before, is it's all about intentions. You have to read what the person is saying, but also what the person is feeling in that moment. And because of that, you have to really be malleable to the person or people on the other side of the scene. And that was, I think, the most fun part. And now I'm so excited to do it with everything that comes my way, is just having the ability to learn the lines. Boom. I got the lines down. Let me have them memorized, but let me just receive your energy. Let me receive what because the reality is even on Cobra Kai, Billy Zabka, Ralph Macchio, even a lot of the kids on the show are so talented that it almost feels like a wasted, like, oh my God, I wasted all this time. You guys are so, I was acting for, I was doing a one-sided scene because I had it all prepped in my head when I could have been doing
It's interesting you're saying that, because of, like, you're more than adequate though even as
I
a
appreciate
one-sided
that. Thank
actor.
you.
You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Because of that, I mean, and this is interesting that people should really hear this, because we watch you and can see that you're alive, right? Mm-hmm. But you're saying that you've discovered that there's even more that can be done.
Absolutely.
And that's the exciting thing now. You know, and that's why you're in an interesting place, I think, because sometimes people go to acting school and they get this, but they didn't have 5 years on a show. Even if you're going to look back and say, oh, this was a missed opportunity because now I learned this, I could have been doing this all this time. But all this experience and working with these amazing people, right? I mean, this adds in. So now you're getting this part where you're exercising these acting muscles, having all of this behind you. Now this is like you're a super force now.
Being able to, like you're saying, have this experience of getting to work in this industry, getting to work in the field of what it means instead of learning in a classroom or what have you, is definitely a different experience. But now I'm finding that, you know, before, when I was just starting on Cobra Kai and the projects before Cobra Kai, I was acting, you know, I was auditioning against kids who were kind of doing the same thing. Because nobody is 14, you know, I don't want to say nobody, but at least in the rooms that I was finding myself in, nobody was like a Juilliard
Marlon
prodigy
Brandoing
at 14 or what have you. But now as I'm 21, I'm about to head into this new world where there's going to be a lot of hungry actors who do have this technical experience that we're talking about, who did go to the Juilliards of the world and are really technique based, and or even if they're not technique based, who have learned a lot about this craft that we're talking about. So now it's almost like I feel like I'm playing a bit of catch up. I think maybe in the bright side of it all is that I do have this experience that maybe while these students were in class learning and practicing and putting on performances at their own school, I was able to work in the industry that I want to be in. But now I kind of have to, all right, we did this, now on hiatus, now on off season, let's really start to learn more about this. And I think a big part of that comes in watching movies. I hate to say it, but I was like a Disney Pixar kid up until like 2.5 years ago, where everything that I was consuming was just blockbuster, you know, movies that while they do have a place and I enjoy them, and I'm not going to shit on those because I there's so much joy that I've found and that I take from these moments of getting to watch movies with my family, with my friends. But getting to dig a little bit deeper, and I think the pandemic really helped with that, just being forced to sit at home and consume content, getting to see what other people have done has helped say, oh, okay, I like this, you know, even outside of you know, continental, you know, North America. There's so much to be explored and so much to soak up, and that's kind of been a whole new side of this world that I really wasn't familiar with up until recently.
That's very exciting. That is very exciting. As you're talking, I'm just imagining like you're going to discover this and this and this.
The Godfather. I still haven't seen The Godfather.
Well, there you go.
So like there's so many things that I and I'm so, I have no regrets. I don't want to sit up here and say, dude, I you know, I know I say I wasted this opportunity, but it wasn't a wasted opportunity.
No.
I'm not going back and saying, this isn't the real Xolo. This was this. All I'm saying is that I appreciate so much more what I came from now that I've learned this new thing, and I'm so eager and so ready and so hungry to kind of come back to this world, and everyone else on the show is doing it as well. And it's so exciting and so humbling to see so many other people who are my same age on this show also evolve and grow up and become more nuanced, because it's surreal, because when we all started the show, we were little like little shits. We were like, 16-year-olds beating up each other because they stole our math answers. And now, as we've experienced more in and out of the characters, in and out of the industry, it's great to come back each year and say like, all right, let's get back into this, and we've changed a little bit, but I think we've all come a long way, and I'm really excited to hopefully get to come back to it.
Yeah, and as I was telling you, I had Zabka on the show, and it was so much fun to talk to him. This is a guy giving 100% all the time. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who is so prepared as an actor. How did those qualities, rub off on you? That's what I want to know. Or talk to me about that.
I was fortunate to work pretty much entirely with Billy for these first couple of years of the show. And I was familiar with the Karate Kid, but also I had no sense of what this movie meant to people who grew up with the Karate Kid, because I wasn't born during this time, and my parents had seen it, but they weren't maybe as attached to it, or it wasn't as pivotal in their growing up or in their childhood as maybe some other folks were. So going into this first season of Cobra Kai, I was just happy as a clam to be there. And it was apparent from the very first second that I had the chemistry read with Billy, to the first day of filming, to getting to talk to him at lunch, that there was a lot riding for Billy, whether or not he's going to admit it. There's a lot riding on this role for him, because he has 30 years of people having a very clear, narrow-minded, or a very solid view of who he is as a character. And this is this iconic villain of the 80s who everyone loves to hate.
Yeah.
And he has to, in 30 minutes, make people feel some other way. Even if it's not like him, they have to make, it can't be the same thing. Because he can't come back to this role after 30-something years and deliver the same, the same note. Because then people are going to say, all right, well, I still hate you. Like, all right, And the humility that he has, and the ability that he has to take the last 30 years for what it was, but really, dive into the deep end when it comes to what would this character be like right now. And yeah, it's goofy sometimes. Yeah, it's corny, and I think the show is understanding of that. Yeah. And I think that's why it works.
Yeah.
And Billy has hit it right on the nail since day one. He's done the research because he's had, and I think it's also due in part to our creators being such big fans of the show, that they also have a great understanding of what these two characters would be like, 30 years in the future. And it's totally dramatized, and it's, heightened. It's this like soap opera, karate soap opera. But what Billy taught me is that there's so much, you can come so far by just totally immersing yourself in this role and having no embarrassment to, because some of the things that Billy says or that Johnny says, they're ridiculous. Yeah. He's stuck in the 80s. He's totally out of touch with this world that everyone around him is living in. He's like the kid in the bubble. He's trapped in this year, and inherently sometimes it's like we rap or we cut, and he's like, I'm sorry, I would never have said that. I just have to make clear because he's so good, because he's so believable, because
that's interesting. On he almost feels like as a person he has to apologize because he put everything into what he just said. Exactly. And he doesn't want it to land.
Exactly. He needs it to land for the scene, but he doesn't want it to take outside of the scene. And I think the dedication that he brings to the role really kind of woke me up at those first seasons, because before that I was just reading the lines
Yeah.
and you know, delivering them. But he would come onto set, and I think even apart from the acting, the respect that he brought everyone on set, from our, you know, producers that came from Westbrook, you know, to our cast, to our cinematographers, to our catering, to Crafty, the immense amount of respect that he brought was, it's unparalleled. I've never seen it to this day. And yes, Ralph is also very nice, and Marty is very nice, and I'm, you know, a stand-up guy as well. But every room that he's in, the room is brightened because he has this sense of truth, this sense of genuineness, and also he's so welcoming. William Zabka and Ralph Macchio are household names. You know, Daniel LaRusso, Johnny Lawrence, Sweep the Leg, Strike Hard, Strike First, No Mercy.
Yeah.
These are things that everyone knows. And going into the show, I thought, oh my God, he's going to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Both of these guys are going to be so stuck up.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who Ralph Macchio is. Everyone knows who Billy Zabka is. And I wasn't even mad at this idea, because I was like, I understand it. They're like,
Yeah.
they're
You're
huge
ready to
now.
accept them.
But they could not be more different than this preconceived notion that I had about them. They're so welcoming. And I think that's what made those first seasons so special to me, is that the chemistry was there from the get-go. And he really, you know, it paralleled the character in the show, because I was like, oh man, this guy is a father figure. Like, he is someone that I look up to. He is someone that I, you know, aspire to be like. And because of that, you know, I think as the seasons have come along, I've loved to tap into the comedic side of it all, because he's so funny.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, those are just a few of the things. Obviously, I could go on forever about, you know, everything that I've learned from him, but it's been just such a great experience with him. And now, you know, more recently getting to work with Ralph more, because now the dojos are combined, and you know, everyone is kind of on top of each other now. Now I'm kind of seeing the other side of it, because for those first 2-3 seasons, I didn't work with Ralph. I had one, maybe 2 scenes, but that was all Miyagi-Do. I was with, you know, Kreese and Johnny and this Cobra Kai world. But now I'm starting to see, like, you guys are different. Like, on and off set, you guys are definitely different. And there's an appreciation to what they both bring to the table.
Yeah.
And I love it.
So this is interesting to have that example, because you just were number one on the call sheet.
Yeah.
And there you were talking about these number ones on the call sheets, and this kind of leadership and this example that was set.
Yeah.
So is there something that you felt that you had to do in terms of setting a tone as a leader on a set?
Yeah, I mean, there were tons of conversations about this that you're talking about. This, and I will use the word pressure here, because being number one on the call sheet is like, there is an unspoken thing about this, you know, whether or not it's, you know, you have to be the best, or whether or not, whatever it is, there is a tone that has to be set. And there was it was hard to wrap my head around at the beginning, because I'm thinking, like, how am I number one next to Susan Sarandon? How am I number one next to George Lopez, next to Bruna Marquezine, next to every single person on this cast? They're all better than I am. They, and it's not like, I'm not like shitting on myself, like, oh, you know, this I'm joking around. They truly are, I believe, better than I am. So, you know, through these conversations, I realized that number one doesn't mean being the best. Number one isn't the best actor, and it shouldn't mean that.
Right.
Because then it's like, what the, really?
Yeah.
We're just gonna, like, this is how it's gonna be this way on the culture. Number one is the most invested, and you have to have the most preparation when it comes to being number one. I have to bring this energy when I talk about Billy, I have to bring the same energy. I have to be, you know, and I think a lot of it comes naturally because it's not like I'm forcing myself to say hi to everyone in the room. It comes naturally.
Yeah.
And I think when people start to see that, it makes the whole relationship much more comfortable. Once I was able to get this weight off of my shoulders that I have to be the best person in this movie, and that honestly I should utilize all of these other amazing actors and help them bring me up and highlight my strengths as I'm able to, make the George Lopez's and the Elpidia Carrillos and the other actors in this movie, as they are receiving my energy and taking who I am as an actor and kind of enhancing their performances, I should be doing the same thing.
Yes.
And I was very fortunate to learn this before filming, because I think had I come to this realization during filming, I would have been way more in my head, and it would have taken me out of this moment that I'm supposed to be living in. And on top of that, I also want to enjoy myself.
Yeah.
I this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and to tarnish it all by being so focused on the budget or who's going to watch it or who I'm supposed to be representing or these things by filling my mind with these inherently intrusive thoughts totally takes someone out of the moment.
Yeah.
And I was really fortunate to learn it early on and to be humble about being number one, but also understand that I have a great opportunity to learn so much, and that hopefully by the end of this project I'm able to live up to this number one, what it means, and show like, all right, like I can do it. And I think I did. I think we finished filming, and I truly think that I was able to present myself in a way, and honestly, I don't want to act differently when I'm not number one on the set. Like it shouldn't be something that only comes when you're the best person or the number one person or whatever you want to call top build. You should, and I want to, and I will carry myself in this way regardless as to what position I line up on the call sheet. All of that is arbitrary. Yeah. All of that is decided by whoever the heck, and the way that you act shouldn't depend on how much you're getting paid or whatever.
Right.
Whatever. I think it's it shouldn't, and it's not going to, at least in my case.
I just talked to Lashana Lynch, who is in the movie The Woman King, and she said something amazing. About this movie. She said something that really got me thinking, like I haven't before, about this idea of not letting people mold you as an actor, meaning like you're trusted people, like your agent, your manager, but molding yourself, letting them know how you want to be molded. Because we were talking about how it's so interesting that some people let those people
dictate
and mold, and then suddenly they find themselves in a mold
that they don't like,
that they don't want. I'm just curious if like young people like you now, especially that you got this big role that you just completed, are in this kind of mindset about this, and what this kind of thinking is leading to, or are you even in the realm of thinking about something like this yet?
Absolutely, and this is honestly something that I've been thinking about, and that I've been blessed with great parents who are conscious of this as well. But this, what you're talking about, this mold, your team has to be understanding of what you want to get out of this industry. And I think especially growing up as a Latino, I've been in this industry for 12 years. I started when I was 10, and the auditions that I was going out for when I was 10 were sometimes just abysmal. Like Gangbanger number 3, guy being escorted across the border with the narcos, and very early on, I had to have this intense, maybe not even intense is the right word, but I had to totally be against this idea, because as an actor, you have this responsibility to portray your community, to portray who you are, your culture, your background authentically. And while I do acknowledge that that this is a reality for Latinos, that there are these stories that are true, these drug cartel stories, these border crossing stories, these gang influence stories, that to say that is what the community is like, or what this experience or what this culture is like, is a total disservice to the community and to myself and to my family, to my culture, to my ancestors. And very early on, I had to say, I'm not doing that. And if I am doing that, it has to be from a sense of truth. I'm not having, I can't have, and pardon my French, but I'm not having someone who doesn't come from this tell me that this is what it's like.
Yeah.
Because if you don't come from this, what the fuck do you like?
Yeah.
And it's not to be disrespectful, because everyone has the right to tell whatever stories that they want.
Yeah.
And that's what art is. You make what you want and what have you. But as a young person, and especially as a young Latino, I have a duty to my community and to my family and these things, and my team has to be reflective of that. And when curating and finding people that were whether or not it was like-minded, but at least understood that, they have to understand that, and that was like at the forefront of these conversations when you're talking to, because in these past few years I've had the manager that I've had for years and years, but my agent, the person who's supposed to be presenting me with these new opportunities, these new acting gigs, what have you, this person has to know this, and they have to understand it. And they can't be salty when I say no to certain roles, because the reality is they're getting paid on commission.
Right.
They're getting paid when I work, and it can't be a relationship where they're like, fuck Xolo, dude, he's not doing these, I'm losing money because he's not doing these
Right.
roles.
Right.
They have to understand that, and I've been really blessed, with my team, that they do understand that. And this thing that you're talking about, the mold has to be created together. Mm-hmm. It has to be created with my team. It has to be created with myself. But, I also can't let the team dictate it all for me. And I think I also have to be ready for change as well. Because if you were to ask me 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago what I wanted to do, it changes all the time. And
it's going to change now when you see The Godfather.
And it's going to, that's exactly. And it's going to change now when I see The Godfather. And I think that's okay. It's
Right.
okay to have your goals change. It's okay to have your, the bucket list change. But the team has to be, and you're touching on a great thing, and something that I feel like maybe people get lost in the sauce with, because you see these big agencies, or you see these people who have had really great careers, and some of these agents, what they're looking for is just the next big star. And they're looking for this short game, this we want to make you a blockbuster star, and then we'll see what your career is supposed to be after that. Whereas myself, I've really wanted to kind of craft, and that means sometimes like saying no to a lot of things in a time where, luckily, because I'm so young, I have the ability to kind of rely on my parents. There isn't a sense of I need to, bring in money so that we can continue our life.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's been a comfort with being able to kind of navigate this without the pressure of, oh shit, I need to pay a mortgage. I need to. Most of my life, I've been, living under my parents' roof.
Yeah.
and they've been so supportive of this, and they've really been willing and made so much sacrifices, but they understand that as well. And it's really because of my two parents that I've been able to find this. I can't say without them that I maybe would have such an understanding of this, responsibility that I have, and they really helped crafted that.
Xolo Maridueña, thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.